So, hey, thank you for allowing me to have the opportunity to present this. I'm really excited, and it's a game I've been working on and sort of been a pet project of mine for years, and I've really wanted to see this come to life. And this is just the prospect of this being something that could become a reality is just fascinating and just really excited. So, thank you. Who I am. My name is Caleb Garner. I run a company called Part 12 Studios. Started in Nashville back in 2008, moved to Boston in 2011. I've been working there since, so I came down here. I'm actually giving a presentation tomorrow about Alexa and gamification and using that. So come check it out if you're around. So I'd love to talk about Alexa too. But this project has been something I've wanted to do for a long time. And so, all right, so a little bit more about me. So in the last 10 years, I've produced about 60 different products, various companies, done a lot of work for hire stuff. Some bigger clients and lots of smaller word of mouth stuff, repeat customers, and just been really, really lucky to be able to be involved with all this. And I guess the point of that is saying I know how to finish things that I start. And so this has just been the kind of project that's been a little bit beyond my means to do on my own, out of my own pocket. And so that's why I'm here talking to you all. So a little bit of the story about RoadDefender. The setting is basically that the Earth has been ravaged with meteors, not necessarily a single Texas-sized rock, but just basically enough to just tear up the Earth. Just kind of shred it, create lots of dust, create difficult environments for plants to grow. And so humanity is essentially on the brink, and we don't know how long we have to last. And so there's been rumors, though, of a coastal paradise thousands of miles from where we are in this colony. And so it's come down to the necessity to just try. But the environment is dangerous, and the atmosphere, everyone has to wear gas masks to protect themselves from the environment. But you also have marauders and a lot of other stuff going on as well. So inspirations taken from, obviously, Mad Max, right? If you've seen the most recent Mad Max, there's tons of great references there to pull from. But of course, really I was inspired back in 2006 by the original Mad Max, the Road Warrior, and that tanker chase scene is effectively the game design document. I have certainly written plenty about it, but really, just watch the movie. That's the game. I can tell you point by point, that's a mechanic. That's a mechanic, and that's always been just jumped out at me. Movies like Escape from New York, I've kind of wanted to almost give it the sense of that whole, like, the year is 1997, and it's like the sort of that 80s perspective, looking at the future. So a lot of the technology and the style I've been trying to go for actually kind of draws more from what you'd see from something like that than necessarily modern user interfaces and stuff. So other things like RoboCop, the targeting system, which is green lines, is like X and Y coordinates. But how cool that scene is when you're watching RoboCop targeting the little pin as he moves around and stuff. So all of that really is cool. So of course the arcade game Spy Hunter, where of course now that the game is, you're basically a tanker going down a highway, trying to survive with your convoy of vehicles being chased by various marauders and such. You have to have various defensive mechanisms like smoke screen, oil slick, landmines, nitrous. All of these things can be utilized to help give you and buy you time to help survive that particular wave. And of course, Steve Jackson's Car Wars was another big one for me as a kid. So you are the hero. And in this situation, you are effectively a gyrocopter commander. You're flying around your convoy in the air, traveling around, changing your perspective, able to look down on your vehicles and basically orchestrate how you want to move them around, almost in the kind of way like an RTS would be. So also you can change views, which is also what's kind of makes this unique, is the fact that not only are you the commander in that role, but you can also choose to switch into the role of either a turret operator, one of the people on the backs of your vehicles on top attacking, so maybe you want to help do something better than the AI itself might naturally know what to prioritize. But you can also hop into the driver's seat of each vehicle in order to basically do evasive maneuvers that maybe, again, your basic AI would not necessarily have the capacity of doing. So the core game loop of what this is all about is essentially you're surviving through these hostile runs, essentially, right? Like Fury Road and things like that. So you have these dangers and things that are going along there. But then you also have, at the end of that, effectively are able to scrap or harvest all the scrap, which becomes essentially money, right? That you can then take to the next pocket of civilization, the next colony that you come across, where you're then able to effectively repair, upgrade, and build your team and your convoy. Now, something you need to keep in mind, though, is that tanker full of gasoline that you've got is a variance in difficulty. Basically, the more full it is, obviously, the more gas you have to travel and fuel more vehicles. But as you lose vehicles, as you have to purchase them and so forth, you may run out of gas before you travel the full 2,000 miles. So you really have to keep that in mind as far as a balancing act as your strategy. How many vehicles is too many vehicles? Versus obviously the smaller your convoy is, the more dangerous it is because you have less vehicles to defend the tanker and the flagship. So as far as reception, I've been to a number of different events and such to sort of promote this when opportunities have arisen. Mass Digi up in Massachusetts there's a game challenge every year that then I was able to present that for there, and we were given an award for design on that. So that was really, really it was great to just get that kind of affirmation about what we were presenting at the time. Also, I went to Boston Festival of Indie Games, which is something I actually helped start back in 2007. 11, what year was that now? I think, but it was 11. Yeah. So the idea basically is that I bought a booth there and I had a table and I basically just talked to people, got decked out in some Mad Max gear and stuff, and just kind of walked up to people and just talked to them about what I was doing. And it was really great to get their feedback. These people were offering their email addresses to find out more, and I was just excited to be able to share and kind of go into it. And I really felt like people could see that. Like, they love tower defense games, but if you've played tower defense games, you've played every tower defense game. They really haven't evolved. And what this game does really is sort of take it that 10% further, where we can actually, introduce new mechanics and such that just aren't found, that really aren't possible in this traditional static environment where you just have sort of a field, enemies cross it for various reasons, and you just place static objects on the ground. So this is a little clip from a prototype that we built a couple years back in our spare time. And so you can see here, basically, this gives you the ability to look around the convoy, to move around and fly and sort of change your perspective. But you can also use these sort of augmented reality sort of versions of each vehicle to basically tell you how you want to move them around. But also, as you can see how these sort of wireframe graphics along the edge, part of the reasoning behind that was because since you really don't want to have if you're flying above a great flat plane, you really don't want to be able to see 14 miles away from your gyrocopter, which could create problems with performance and polygon counts and such. So the actual dust story was really more to support the game mechanic than anything. The idea is that this is effectively a sort of a dust cloud that prevents you from seeing very far. But because of the advanced technology that you can see here with the wireframe green, like something out of a Star Wars arcade game, basically is a computer projection of what's beyond. What's really cool about this is now you can actually put like these 3D models that are just simply blocks and boxes. They're really nothing to them, but for the player's imagination, they know that what's just beyond that cloud is an entire city that's been destroyed. But all it really is a very simplistic object. So from an art asset development point of view, it makes our job easier, but we can still tell a story of what's going on beyond just in this particular space. So the people behind it, Part 12 Studios is who I'm with. I founded it back in 2008. Worked with a lot of different brands over the years. Been very fortunate to have the chance to work. We did NASCAR slots for one company. We did a bunch of Alexa skills for Amazon for their new Echo buttons that came out back here in Christmas time. I've done work for Coca-Cola and MIT, and there's a lot of work for hire projects that they've come to us about. But also a lot of smaller businesses and individuals who just, hey, I got this idea for a game, and so I'll help them with those kind of projects as well. So I've done Flash, HTML5, Unity, PC, Mac, just iOS, Android, Windows Phone, you name it, just whatever there's an opportunity. So, and also, along the way, we had tried several different prototypes. We tried 2D versions, then Flash, and 2D was fine. Sure, it's simpler to do it in 2D, but there's just something about wanting to be able to have it where the enemy can actually jump on the side of a vehicle and climb up and not just be just little guys that are flat 2D sprites. So the 3D just felt like it needed to happen. And also, what's interesting is there was a product called Convoy that came out as a Kickstarter a year or two ago. That was, I think they raised like $13,000, and they basically did a similar idea of a top-down sprite-based sort of a driving game in a similar fashion. And essentially, though, I thought, and they did a good job, but at least it shows that there's an audience, that people are interested in seeing these kind of games. But what we're trying to do is take it to that next level where you make it much more visceral and just 3D, using things like soft body physics, where we want to have the vehicles really be able to crash, roll, tumble, just like they do in the movies. Not these like boxes that are just basically, or things that are on rails. So, again, basically for us, tower defense has produced some really big hits. And one example is Plants vs. Zombies alone, which was a good example of just taking 10%, just taking tower defense and just kind of turning it on its ear just a little bit. And, when they came out, they had it for PC first, which sold really well. But then in iOS alone, it made $1 million in 9 days. So people are willing to buy these kind of games. and they're just looking for something fresh, something original. And so, um, so yeah, so sorry, I lost my piece there. So yeah, so Portal's another great example too, right? You just take a first-person shooter, but then you introduce this one new game mechanic, and you've just revolutionized something and just created an entire new. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.